Hi. So we are on our last video for Same Sun Here by Silas House and Neela Vishwani. So let's find out what happens to Meena and River. So we're on page 280, and it says, Dear Meena. So we know that River is writing this letter to Meena, and it's May 19th, 2009. Dear Meena, I tried cutting Kentucky into different pieces of my morning toast, but I just made a big mess and Mama got on to me. I should have done it before I put blackberry jam all over it. I'm stupid sometimes. Plus, Kentucky is shaped too weird to be cut out easily. Have you ever told you that you are real good at hand drawing? Well, you are. You're like the best artist I know. You said in one of your letters that you weren't good at anything, but you are good at so many things, especially writing and drawing. Countdown. In 1 month, I will be in New York City. I got to thinking and worrying, your mom doesn't like you for you to be around boys much. So is she going to be cool with you hanging out with me when I'm in New York? I sure hope so. Tell her Mama is going to be with us all the time, and she's welcome to come with us too. The more the merrier, I always say. Today we had a little warm spell, and it seemed like we could see the little green buds heating up on the tree branches and showing themselves in the bright light that washed itself over the mountains. Daddy had come home for a few days just to visit us and to look for work back here at home. So we decided to all load up and go over to Cumberland Gap, which is a big national park about an hour from here. I've been going there all my life, and it's one of my favorite places in the world. Have you ever learned about Daniel Boone in your American history class? He was an explorer who opened up the West by building a trail through the Appalachian Mountains called the Wilderness Road, which goes right through my county and is only about a mile from our house. The main gap through the mountains was Cumberland Gap, and since it was lined up with another gap called the Narrows, this became the easiest way for people to go west, and millions of people passed through that gap back in the 1700s and 1800s. So that was back when people were on walking or on a horse or had a horse and buggy, so they needed a way to get through the mountains that was easier. Now the park is mostly just woods that are being protected from ever being cut down or mined or hurt in any way. There's a nice visitor center there with a little museum and all kinds of good creeks and overlooks. From one you can see 3 states and a cave that takes 2 hours to go through, and picnic areas and an old Civil War fort. So there's lots of things at this park. But the best thing is all the trails. My favorite place of all is the actual gap that the pioneers passed through. I love that trail because it's so quiet and you can't hear anything but bird call and the sound of Gap Creek falling out of the mountain. The best thing of all is that Mama, Daddy, Mom, and I walked along the trail and let each other be quiet. Usually there are all kinds of tourists there who are making a big racket and not paying the place the proper respect. But today we were the only people there. So we walked along in silence and just looked at the world, which is coming awake with springtime. Sometimes we get separated a little bit and everyone would do their own thing. At one point I was down by the creek skipping rocks. She was throwing rocks. And Mama was up on the mountainside looking around on the ground for signs of herbs and plants that might be coming up. And Mom and Daddy were sitting on a little bench holding hands and whispering to each other. I love to see them like that. I sat there and listened to the creek, and then I could hear something else that started out so low I couldn't really make it out. But then I knew Mama was singing as she walked on the mountain. This is what she sang. I sing because I'm happy. I sing because I'm free. His eye is on the sparrow, and I know he watches me. His eye is on the sparrow, and I know he watches me. Oops, I know he watches me. I know he watches me. So that is church song. So he in that, his eye and he and his eye, she's talking about God there. And a sparrow is a bird, a bird. So that song means God cares about the birds and God cares about me. I listened to her and the birds and the creek, and I looked at the creek and the trees and the sky, and I thought, this was how the world must have been before people had started to worry about bulldozers taking everything away. I was so caught up in all of this that I didn't even notice that my parents had come down to sit beside the creek with me. They were on either side of me. I could tell by the way they acted they had something important to tell me before they said anything. So here's what they said. I'm going to write it out like a play, like you do sometimes. Mom, River, we have something important to tell you. Daddy, we're getting us a new house, buddy. Mom, we've been saving and saving ever since your daddy has been working off in Mississippi, and we finally saved up enough to buy us a little place. I was glad we'd have a house of our own, but also I didn't want to leave Mama's. I was perfectly happy right there, and I told them so. Daddy, we need our own place though, buddy. We're going to try to buy a place as close to your mama as we can. Mom, the best part is that your daddy is going to be able to come home, River. Daddy, yep, I have one more week down to work down in Biloxi, and then I'm coming back. Mom, he got a job in Knoxville working construction. Daddy, and now I can be around all the time instead of just once every few months. That sound good to you? I nodded. I meant it. But then I said how he was still going to have to drive 2 hours round trip every day. And Mom said that was better than living all the way in Biloxi and only getting to come home once in a while. So Knoxville is still an hour away, so 2 hours round trip. I said I knew that too, but she went on anyway. Mom, they broke our whole family up. Your daddy had worked for them for all those years, and they just up and laid him off because the jobs were going to MTR sites instead of underground like your daddy did. And then we lost our house on account of it. I was so worried over everything that I had those headaches all the time. And then your daddy had to go off plumb to Mississippi, so I just gave up, and I ought not have. When the rockfall happened, when I almost lost you, that woke me up. That made me see that I had to live again. So I did. The whole time Mama said all this, she capped her hand around my neck and ran her thumb back and forth on the skin between my hair and the collar of my shirt. She hadn't touched me that way in a long time. Then we sat there a long while, being quiet and still and feeling the mountains on either side of us. And Mina, it was the strangest thing, because I thought that not only could I feel the mountains, but I could feel the presence of all those people who had passed through the gap years and years ago, just looking for a better life. I guess they were all immigrants in their own way, just like you and your family. We all are, I reckon. After a while, Mama came down from the mountains, clutching a little handful of spring beauties. She said, "Look, the first flowers of the year." And then she tucked them behind my mother's ear in her hair and put her hand on the side of Mom's face for a second. Then we all four walked out of the gap together and drove home with the windows down, smelling the spring. Yours, River Dean Justice. P.S. I tried to answer the immigration questions and I only got like 10 right. Remember, there were 46 questions. He only got 10 right. Those are really hard questions, so your parents must be really smart. P.P.S. Enclosed is a postcard I got you while we were at the Gap today to show you what it's like. I hope you get to go there someday. So there's the picture of the mountains where he was with his mama and his daddy and his mom, where they had a nice hike, nice walk. Okay, page 289, June 4th, 2009, Dear River. So we know it's Mina writing to River. Dear River, time is thick as glue. The past few days have felt like years. Everything went crazy 72 hours ago. When I came home from school, Mrs. Lau and Cuba and all the birds in their cages were on the street in front of the building. The birds were screaming and Cuba's tail was drooping, and Mrs. Lau said, Mimi, I've lived here for 56 years. How can they take my home away? And that is what has happened. All the rent-controlled people in the building were out. We are homeless. Mina is homeless. Mina's family is homeless. Mrs. Lau is homeless. Cuba is homeless. I sat down on the stoop next to Mrs. Lau and tried not to look at her as she cried. She said everyone had gone to the Senior Citizen Center, but she wanted to wait for us. Her hands were all crippled up and she looked very, very old. So her hands were. When Kiku came home from school and saw us, his face didn't budge. It was like he had been expecting this. He ducked under the yellow police tape across the front door and disappeared inside the building. He came back with our suitcase, the pressure cooker, and his bicycle. We each took 2 bird cages and walked to the Senior Citizen Center. When we got there, Kiku called Mom at work. Then he called Daddy, but the people at the catering hall said Daddy couldn't come to the phone because he was working an important party. Then Kiku called Anna Maria. Mrs. Lau's son came from Brooklyn with a big U-Haul. That's a big truck. And they went back to her apartment to get her stuff. She gave me her son's cell phone number, and when I tried to give her the apartment key from around my neck, she started to cry and said to keep it. Cuba kept licking her hands, and when I bent down to pet him, he put his paws on my shoulders like a hug. When they left the Senior Citizen Center, he looked back and wagged his tail at me. I felt like my heart had fallen out and a big metal pan had been put in its place. When Mom came, she was very calm and quiet. Kiku told her he couldn't get through to Daddy on the phone and that he was going to get him on his bike. Mom said, no. Kiku said, it's not far. I've done it before. Mom said, you've done what? Kiku said, I've biked to Jersey to see Daddy. Then Mom slapped him across the face. His cheek turned bright pink. She said, you and your father are keeping secrets? She was so upset, she was just shaking. I thought Kiku was going to run away, but he just said, I'm sorry, Mom. And then Mom looked at Kiku's cheek and her lips went all wiggly, and she hugged him and said, get Daddy. And right at that moment, Anna Maria walked in. There was a man with her, her uncle, who shook Kiku's hand. Kiku cleared his throat and said, Mom, this is my girlfriend, Anna Maria, and her uncle, Rafael. You and Mimi are going to stay at their apartment tonight, and I'll get Daddy and meet you there. He sounded like a man all of a sudden. Mom was completely shocked. She didn't know he had a girlfriend. She didn't know anything about Anna Maria. She didn't say anything. Poor Kiku, all of his secrets are out now. Kiku got on his bicycle and rode away, and Mom and I went to Anna Maria's apartment. Her family lives on the top floor of a building on Essex Street. It is rent controlled and has been in their family for 40 years. There is a big luxury apartment building under construction across the street. The jackhammers and cranes are really loud every day from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. Anna Maria's family gave us dinner and made us a soft bed on the floor and told Mom what a good boy Kiku is. They were so nice, and Mom was nice too, but I could tell she was uncomfortable. She tried to do the dishes, but Anna Maria's mom wouldn't let her. And she tried to give Anna Maria's daddy some money, but he wouldn't take it. It was like the Ramirez's being nice made Mom ashamed. She stayed awake all night and sat out on the fire escape, wrapped up in her shawl. I watched her because I couldn't sleep either. At 7 in the morning, Kiku and Daddy arrived. They had gotten a ride from a nice cook in the catering hall who has a 1971 El Camino. That's a car from 1971. He put Kiku's bike in the back of his car and drove them into the city. Mom and I were still awake, waiting for them. That all happened 3 days ago, and ever since then, Kiku has been calling rental places in Chinatown to find us a place to live. Everything is so expensive. When school ends in 2 weeks and Kiku graduates, we will leave Anna Maria's apartment. We may have to move to New Jersey. I won't see Miss Bledsoe and Carlos or Valentina or paint the backdrop for Oklahoma next year. I won't walk Cuba or clean Zizi's cage, and I won't get to hang out with Miss Lau. I won't go to Seward Park Library anymore. I wonder if the trees will miss me. Very sad things happening in Mina's life. In 3 hours, we will go uptown to the INS offices, where Mommy Daddy will do the swearing-in ceremony to become American citizens. I have been drawing tiny American flags on my notebook paper and taping them around toothpicks all morning so that Anna Maria can stick the toothpicks through apples and strawberries for the party afterwards. It feels strange to think we will soon be citizens, but we do not have a place to live. I have started reading David Copperfield for the second time. He goes through lots of troubles, but ends up happy. I think it will be the same for us. Ever since I started writing this letter to you, I have felt sure of it. There's something about writing that always makes me feel like everything is going to be okay. Kika and I called Mrs. Lau just now, and she said she's having a good time bossing her son around and that her daughter-in-law is making her favorite kind of chicken for dinner. They have a backyard, so Cuba and the parakeets sit outside in the sunshine for most of the day. Mrs. Lau said she talked to Mai on the phone, and they're going next week to see a lawyer at the Chinatown's tenant center. She said she is so homesick for Chinatown she could die, but then she said she won't give those rotten sons of beep the satisfaction of seeing her dad. She said, "We'll get back home, Mimi. You be a good girl now and don't worry." It's kind of fun staying with Anna Maria. Today she braided my hair in a new way. It looks like a ladder starting at my forehead instead of the back of my neck. She did a braid up here. Right? She also showed me how to do eyeliner, makeup. It's not hard to poke yourself, but it makes your eyes jump out of your face. Just like outlining a tree in black paint on the backdrop makes it easier to see from the audience. Anna Maria also loaned me this really cool tank top. She has the best clothes. So she said, you don't have to be rich to look good. You just have to have a sense of style and be creative. I can see why Kiku loves her, and I think Mom is starting to see too. Even though Anna Maria isn't Indian, she is like us, right? People are the same. There's something else I like about staying with Anna Maria and her family. Someone in the building plays a trumpet every night. I think it's a woman because it's a light and quiet footstep walking up the stairs. First I hear that, then I hear the door to the roof opening, then the ceiling creaks, and I hear the footsteps rocking right above my head. Then I hear the trumpet. Scales for about an hour, then a song, one long song that sounds so beautiful it hurts. The song swoops around the air like a bird. Someone standing on the roof playing to the city, to the sky. Oh, river, the way it sounds twining through the shaftway, it's like life, full of joy and mourning. Everything changing, this way, then that way. I sat in front of the window last night and listened. I saw a man in the next building leaning out his window, watching the traffic on Essex Street. He was listening to the trumpet too. When it got dark, I couldn't see anything except my own face reflected in the glass. Listening to that trumpet, I felt like I don't know what's coming next, but whatever it is, it will just make me more me. It's kind of weird because when I was sad about Daddy on the subway platform, I heard a trumpet too. So maybe it's a sign of some kind. I thought I would be upset about losing all our stuff, our pots and pans and sheets and clothes, but I'm not. I feel like I have everything that really matters. Mummy, Daddy, Kiku, and there's always the library for books. Daddy says no matter where we go, there will be a library because almost every town in America has one. Isn't that amazing? I don't know if Mrs. Lau still has the P.O. box, so I don't even know where to tell you to send letters. I'll go to the library every day and check for an email from you. Remember how I told you about the statue of Gandhiji in Union Square? I will meet you there on Sunday, June 14th at 3 p.m. We don't have a camera, but here is a little portrait of me, so you will recognize me when you see me. I practiced drawing it last night when I was looking at myself in the window. I'm using the pencils Daddy gave me. I've sharpened them so many times, they're almost too small to hold. So there, Mina drew a picture of herself. When you get here to New York City, I will be an American citizen, just like you. We will eat mangoes with chili pepper and sit on the park bench and watch the people go by. I'll give you your birthday present and teach you how to buy a Metro card so you can give me a tour of the UN. And I will show you my watch set to India time. Right now in America, it's 8 p.m. and I'm sending you telepathic thoughts. Everything is going to be okay. It is, it is. See you soon, Riverdene Justice. Your friend, Mina. And that's the end of our book. So I want to know what happens to Mina and to River. I want to know what happens when they meet. But we have to use our imagination because that's the end of the book. I hope you enjoyed reading it. And congratulations, you read 297 pages in English. You're getting smarter every day. Good job. Bye.